Pandemonium Reigns.
Week 1 is in the books. You might want to keep a record of that one as well, where we have games with outcomes that are 100% going to have affected the college football playoff. You got some squads that I guarantee you are already eliminated. You had Clemson, Georgia. You had Notre Dame going into College Station getting a win. You had Florida, Miami, a rivalry that needs to be played annually. You had it all. A lot of people looked at this week and said, "Meh, it's okay." And then Florida State capped it off. How do you word that? They capped it off. I'm Dan. He's Mike. This is Pandemonium Reigns. We're going to talk about it. Week 1, man. It's in the books.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, you couldn't have said it any better. You know, this is why, partially, and the money is the other aspect that's huge. This is why the playoff does get talked about all season long, not starting when the rankings debut in late October, early November. This is why it gets talked about all year long because, well, big boys like Florida State, out of it. I heard Virginia Tech mentioned as a sleeper, out of it. Mm-hmm. Clemson, man, if they win this conference, then Florida State and Miami both need to be job hunting for coaches after the year. If Clemson wins this conference, and also winning this conference is their only chance of getting in. They are not an at-large capable team based on what we saw Saturday. Yes, Georgia is still Georgia, and I know we're leading with this game, but my word in heaven, that was hideous. Hideous. I wanted to mention this when we previewed this game, and I don't know if I actually got the words out, but we talked about that 2021 matchup, 10-3 outcome. DJU pick 6 was the difference in the game, which Florida State's living with now. Clemson looks stuck right there in that 2021 mode, except Georgia's 24 points better than they were at that time.
Yeah, that's a solid point.
And it looks like the same exact Clemson from 2021 when they probably struggled to get, 188 total yards in 4 quarters. Probably looks a lot like that.
It could be worse. All right, so it looks like we're leadoff batting with Florida State before we deep dive into Clemson, Georgia. For one, tell me all of the listeners out there who knew that Bill O'Brien was head coach of Boston College. I didn't know this.
My hands down.
Had no clue. And that should tell you everything you need to know about Boston College. But the stat line tells you everything you need to know about the outcome of this game. DJU, 21 for 42. Not a mathematician, but that's 50%. 272 yards, a touchdown, and an atrocious pick with a QBR of 27.4. Here is the telling stat. Here it is. As a team, 16 carries, 21 yards on the ground. And what's crazy is you only lost by 15. And you did that on the ground. Imagine if you could.
Absolutely.
Now, there was nothing about them that was going to win that game. There was nothing internal. There was nothing external. There was no stat line. There was nothing. And what caps it off and what makes it even better is Trayshawn Ward, former Seminole, 12 carries, 77 yards for the Fighting Bill O'Briens.
Just a murder scene at home at night. I mean, do they want to play football? Do they want to play on Saturdays? What did Norvell just sit around and say, "Hey guys, let's go show them what they should have done last year in the playoffs"? What was their preparation leading into this season? Not to mention the 2 specific games that we've seen from them, but they don't look like they either look like they do not care, they don't want to play, or they just spent 0 time prepping and all the time just looking in the mirror, putting on some drip, some swag, putting on some eye black, some chains, and driving up in their fancy NIL-funded cars. Let's go show them how wrong they were. Not actually doing anything to show anybody how wrong they were.
Listen, man, I'm finally going to pull the trigger on this. I'm finally going to do it. I'm finally going to make an assessment, and it's going to circumference everything that you just said. DJU's not good. I tried to testify for him when he was at Clemson. He won me back a little bit, Oregon State. But I've seen enough football and I've been with enough football teams to know that team goes as quarterback goes. Heck, preview 2019 Jarrett Guarantano. Preview 2015, 2016 Tennessee and Josh Dobbs. We went as Dobbs, and I mean this in a non-tangible way. He seems to have no urgency about him, no emotion about him, and the team followed suit.
Yeah.
He's just not. I wanted him to be good so bad. I think he's a really great kid. I think he's a really great young man.
Yeah.
But the proof is now in the pudding. You're talking about two really different situations. We'll just disregard Oregon State altogether because in hindsight, I don't know that it's going to play into his favor. Clemson, Florida State, same results. He has not progressed in any way. If there is pressure, he can't do it. He can't do it. His one pick last night, at the time of this recording, he steps up into pressure and then throws it. Pick. I got nothing for the guy, man.
Just 5-star in a class that hasn't panned out. It just isn't going to work for him, man. And it's like he's 5-star Joe Milton, and I'm not even trying to trash anybody here, but it's just what he is. And coaches have to stop taking chances thinking I'm the one to fix that guy, in my opinion, because that's how you end up needing another job rather than proving what you can do as a coach. You're settling for a guy that's been in a college program versus building up a sophomore or a freshman or what have you, or a homegrown junior or senior. I guess it would be Brock Glenn next because that's who it was last year. I don't know if that's changed. But yeah, I mean, just give me a break. Stop taking chances on guys like this. Thankfully, it didn't go as poorly for Tennessee and Heupel when we took a chance on a guy like this, but it ain't happening for DJ. They got to make a change. They have to, or they can go 5-7, 4-8, and start from scratch again. Be my guest. I don't want you to. I wanted you to be back, but you're not back.
No, and I'm glad you said it. It's time to pull him. It's time to go another direction. At this point, you could argue and say, well, he's only gotten 2 games in a Seminole jersey, but how many games in a college football jersey? You know what you're going to get. You don't know with Cromanhoke. You don't know with Brock Glenn. I mean, you have a better understanding with Glenn just because of his little time in the last 2 games last season. But you have to make a change. I want to end this segment by asking this. What does this loss – I think we know what this win means for Boston College. I think we know. But I don't know that anybody cares. What does this loss mean for Florida State?
Trouble. There's a gas tank with a match in close proximity, and it's in the same dumpster, but it's not on fire just yet. But you're just barreling towards yet again starting over from scratch, and I don't know. I don't know why coaches can't have more continuity in programs. Maybe this is the tell when you land the wrong transfers, because I know they like to stay in the portal a lot, build that way. But I don't know, man, especially when you're in the state of Florida, you're dead central in that state. I don't know if that's the problem. I know DJU is a huge part of the problem, but you're barreling towards disaster, and I hate it.
I think if you're Norvell, you have to make a change because you were inching towards a hot seat after Georgia Tech. You took a major step in that direction, and now you have to do things to win back your fan base. And Florida State is one of those fan bases. They'll get on Twitter, they'll get on the boards, they'll start complaining, and they can set forth the coaching change. They can set that whole conversation in motion.
Man made a promise to eat dog doo-doo out of a solo cup if this happened, and it did. And we'll see if he follows through because that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, this is not good for Florida State. It's not good, and I'm going to be the first on behalf of the entire organization here, which is just the 2 of us. We were wrong. We were wrong. But I think it came down to how much stock, when it comes to the game of football, is put into quarterback play, how much it matters. And you're witnessing that, which is crazy because the stat line, you're like, whoa, we put up 270. They could put the ball on the ground. To tell you, man, at the end of the day, it still centers around quarterback. Well, just like Mike Norvell, Dabo's got problems. Mike Norvell might just have a quarterback problem. Dabo's got multiple problems. And we are now to the point in the Clemson narrative. Here's how I'm starting this thing. If he doesn't start making changes to his approach, he's done. It's over. You can already remove Clemson from that elite top tier conversation. They're not in it. It's done. It's over. If you want to assimilate it down and just talk about their defense, I'll have that conversation. But as a whole, coaching staff included, offense included, it's not. It's not. Do you know how bad I wish Clemson was on our schedule? I would love to play these guys. I would love to play these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love for our offense to face the test of their defense, because you can't lose that game unless you throw it to them at the 3-yard line for them, or you give them a pick six or a scoop and score. You can't lose to them. Look at what they did versus Georgia. Georgia's first half offensively was not good. Clemson had a big part in that. Not blaming Georgia, not saying their offense won't be good. They had 6 points at half, and you can only manage 3 for the entire game and 188 yards of offense. Again, I just go back to it. And Dabo proves this. He proves this every week, every time he opens his mouth. They still think it's 2021 and what they were doing is going to work. They still think they've got, I don't know, Trevor or Deshaun or somebody back there that's going to make something out of nothing and is generational. You can't tell me, like, this is so jarring for my childhood when we think that Fulmer was handcuffing offensive coordinators. That's got to be something of the sorts what's going on with him and Garrett Riley, right?
I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. All I know is they have a continual problem going on multiple years now, and he hadn't fixed it. Yeah, I guess so. He did a good thing, and what I thought at the time was getting Riley as the offense coordinator, but that's just not panning out. And the narrative of this whole thing was Clemson's defense kept them in this. This is how good Clemson's defense is. Kept them into it until Clemson's defense just could not hold on anymore. You asked them to do all of the heavy lifting, and Cade Klubnik and the rest of the Clemson offense just couldn't do it. Let's take a peek at the stat line real quick. 18 for 29 for a $142, as you already mentioned, and a pick. And then you got Phil Maffa, 16 for 59, 3.7 yard per carry. That's hideous. Hideous.
Yeah.
And so
long run of 9 yards.
Yeah. So here it is. So time is showing us that elite quarterback play has covered Sweeney's sins. That elite recruiting, in addition, this is what separates Dabo from Butch. Is I don't think Dabo is a liar or a used car salesman by any means, that the way Butch was. Dabo surrounded himself with elite quarterback play, elite receiver play, elite running backs, and he doesn't have those things. He's got a 5-star quarterback, but that is where it stops. So he doesn't have anything else.
He has nothing else. And this, I spoke to DJU's quarterback class a moment ago. This is the one I actually meant to speak to, because this one, you had 5-star quarterbacks, Cade Klubnik and Weigman out of Texas A&M that we're going to get to in a minute. What were the guys who evaluate these dudes looking at that time? And look, I think there's a situation where Klubnik can still throw out. It's over for DJ. We know that. But right. Klubnik is not DJ. He's gritty. He'll make more rapid decisions. His accuracy is not perfect by any means. It's average to me, maybe slightly above average at best. And this is, again, one of the toughest defenses that you'll face in college football. We know that. It's Georgia. Saban's defensive mind is out of the game. Mm-hmm. Kirby's is from the tree. It's one and the same just about. But again, man, I don't need to see anything else to know that Dabo thinks what worked 5-10 years ago is going to just fix it right back. Here's the telltale sign. He told you why he didn't want portal players. Number one, those players aren't good enough to play at Clemson.
This
okay. Ain't good, dude.
I called him not. I said he wasn't a liar earlier, and that statement right there, technically on paper, makes him a liar. But he's just hyping up his team. I don't hate him for that. He is, but he's wrong. It's not so much. He's wrong.
It's not so much a lie as it is stubbornness, which is probably the closest trait that he has to Butch Jones. It's stubbornness, belief again, and your set of play calls in. And he's done this a lot better, but the type of guy that he brings in better than Butch did, we acknowledge that. But he's stubborn. That's his fatal flaw. And I don't see a path for him to continue if Clemson wants to be an 8-9 win program, to ever get back to contending for championships. Mm-hmm. I see no path unless you land the next Trevor, Deshaun, etc., and give him some weapons, because either your quarterback play has been so putrid or your offensive game plan has been so putrid that you can't get it to the weapons that you have, or, as I really think is the case, they've dropped off severely.
Right. I want to switch this conversation to the lens of Georgia.
Yeah.
But before I do, a lot of people were telling me yesterday there's not a chance that Clemson gets rid of Dabo. He's a national champion head coach. They would be foolish to get rid of Dabo. Prime example, Mac Brown. You know what got Mac Brown fired?
Perfect.
Stubbornness. He tried to continue a Vince Young, Colt McCoy offense with Garrett Gilbert, and it cost him. You have to adapt. You have to change. The greatest to ever do it, Nick Saban, he said, you don't want these things, but if this is where you're going, all right, cool. I can play that game too. We can do that. I hate to give credit to that, but he was so good with changing with the times. Now, with that said, Georgia, question. Clemson that bad or is Georgia that good?
Normally I would lean towards Georgia that good. I really think I would, and part of it is just, the fear that they put into the entire game. The fear that they put into the entire game for 3+ years now. Heck, before they were winning championships, they were dang good. But man, just such stubbornness. Clemson, I don't know that I can go more than like 60% versus the 40% that Georgia's that good. And I think they're dang good. I wanted to talk about too, you can no longer worry about having a national championship winning coach, because this game featured 2 of the 3 that are active, and you name the other in Mac Brown. Okay, you want a championship level coach? You're going to hire Mac Brown away from North Carolina? Is that what you're going to do? You can't worry about that metric anymore. And I'm not saying you are. I'm just speaking to the Clemson fan or the Florida State fan. If they're worried about firing Norvell, whoever's worried about hiring a championship winning coach, there's 3 that are active now, and you're not getting Kirby away from Georgia. You do not want Dabo, even if you're Clemson. I don't think you want him anymore. And Mac Brown is a couple years away from retirement at best. I mean, seriously, like he's not contending for any more titles. It's over. But Georgia's pretty dang good. Clemson played into this a lot, especially 99.9% offensively, because you can't ask a defense to keep up in a game like this. Georgia's gotten to the point where even if your defense is that good, they've thrown so many things at you by halftime, they're going to keep flipping through the playbook. They're going to keep calling different things, and they're going to find the recipe. That's how good they've become offensively. So you're not just going to bully them, even if, early on I thought their offensive line might have taken a small step back. Then I remembered, hey, this is Clemson. They're loaded up there. We don't have to keep saying it. You're not going to win a game where your defense outscores many offenses. Iowa plays that type of schedule, and they do it occasionally, or they used to. Mm-hmm. Georgia could probably do it in 2021 or so. That's not realistic. This is a modern game, like Saban alluded to with what you referred to from him. This will not cut it.
No, I'm with you. But to start to bring this segment to a close, I think Georgia's really good. I thought Carson Beck looked really, really sharp. They've got this true freshman kid, Nate Frazier, who looks like Nick Chubb reincarnated. Of course, he's a true freshman. Of course, he's massive. Kid goes for 11 for 83, 7.5 yards per carry, a touchdown, and a long run of 40. What scares me about that is a true back, and they've been doing that whole Dylan Bell thing. They did it for 23, struggling to remember if they did it in 22. So that makes me nervous. But to bring this segment to a close, you talked about previous national championship coaches, Mac Brown, and so forth. Two more that came to mind: this millennial, Urban Meyer. Reason he's not coaching is because he's basically couldn't stop cheating on his wife with women at bars. But Jimbo Fisher, you know what got Jimbo Fisher fired? Stubbornness, because he wanted to. He
level of stubbornness.
Yeah, he wanted to run an ancient offense. So, it is the narrative that is college football head coaches. You have to adjust. Which, real quick before we end this, makes me nervous for Heupel, because we know what he likes about his offense. Will he continue to adapt it? We saw it a little bit in 23, adjusting to quarterback Joe Milton, but that's not the conversation. Georgia, Clemson, in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz. Georgia did, now that we know, exactly what they were supposed to. College football is at its best when Miami is good. I don't care if you like them. I don't care if you hate them. This sport is at its best when Miami is good. As a Tennessee fan, it gets even better when Florida's at the bottom. Gators ate it 41-17 in their own territory, in their own swamp. Here's what Miami did. They went to the swamp, drained it, pissed in it to fill it back up, drained it again.
They did it so much that their players were out there recruiting the Florida visitors, the official visitors in the game, the recruits that were at the game. That's when they were peeing in it. They drained it again by telling those guys not to go to Florida, which is the reason that this game has to be played, which is what you said at the open of this episode. This game has to be played. It's so weird, dude. It's so weird that even in week one, Miami's like flexing and in the driver's seat in the ACC. That's weird. I know they beat Texas A&M last year, and they looked like they were heading in the right direction before before the U was broken over the knee and before everything happened that happened. But dude, I mean, they broke the Florida F over their knee. They pissed in their stadium. They drained it. They took all the grass out of the stadium. Now Florida's gonna be playing on like dirt and stuff. Like they left them with nothing.
So MTSU goes into Miami 2 years ago, breaks the U over their knee. Duke goes into Miami, breaks the U over the knee. Did you tell me you saw this? Mario Cristobal right in front of the student section, breaking the Gator chomp over his knee. Oh. It was about the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It was. But
cringeworthy.
Yeah, I mean, but here's how bad it was. Graham Mertz, 11 for 20, 91 yards. And we've already discussed some really bad quarterback play. Add an interception to it, gives him a QBR of 19.1. Enter DJ Lagway, who they're really hyped about, 3 for 6. Okay, that's 50%. That's 31 yards, 5.2 on the average, and a pick. Their only bright spot, right? Montrell Johnson. That's it. 11 for 106, almost 10 yards per carry, a long of 71. Here's my argument to that.
There it is. There it is.
Because if you, I mean, and it's a small bust. Your force player lost force or lost contain. Call him force, call him contain, whatever. He lost it, and it was one guy goofed, and it allowed 71 yards on the ground. In which Johnson, you notice, didn't have his previous step. I thought that he had lost a step.
Yes.
Otherwise, he might have housed that. You take that out of there, you're talking about 10 for, I don't do math very well.
35.
35.
Okay. 3.5 per carry.
Yeah. So, and all that said, go ahead.
No. I'm just going to say the reason he's probably lost a step is because he underwent an arthroscopic procedure during fall practice. And I mean, you couldn't possibly hold him out. You don't have anything behind him. Your next leading rusher with 20 yards is DJ Lagway. Mm-hmm. You don't have anybody behind him. You can't allow him. I mean, 11 reps. That's a win for Florida in this hideous loss. That you're probably not going to damage his ceiling for this season. But now you've got him. He's not as fast. You've got nothing behind him that you're willing to trust for more than 6. Oh, nope, that's Graham Mertz. Three carries for the backup, Trayon Webb, 3 yards and a touchdown. Whoop-de-freaking-do. There's nothing. This cupboard is empty.
Absolutely. Let's end this segment by talking about this. I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about Cam Ward. What does this loss mean for Florida going forward?
This loss means that it could be the very, very low end of that floor that we talked about. This means it could be 3-9 or possibly 4 wins. If the only way that they get to 5-6 wins at this point is if Miami is just that good, which we'll see. They did look pretty good, or they develop things along the way that carry them to that point. Here's the problem. Okay. Yeah, you've got Samford, then I think it's Texas A&M and
Correct.
Mississippi State in some order like that.
Yes, exactly.
If you drop that Texas A&M game, because you're going to beat Samford, you should beat Samford by rolling the ball across the field, horizontally, not even north and south. If you lose that Texas A&M game, morale in the dumpster because they're not looking too hot. They didn't look good at all offensively. We'll get to it. If you lose that Mississippi State game, all is lost. It's first year Jeff Lebby. I don't care if it's played on the moon. You can't lose that game. I've got zero confidence in you doing anything. 50-50 toss-ups from here on out in any of those games where we said, yeah, Florida can probably steal this one. 50-50 toss-ups at best. You're looking at the low end of that floor is what this means.
Do you remember in the middle of this Florida-Miami game, you texted me and said, how much longer is Napier going to last? Do you remember this?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
What was my response? Do you remember?
Your response was, how many points does Miami need to end it today, Saturday?
Okay. So I'm going to take everything you just said a step farther.
Okay.
If Florida doesn't show out against Samford, that could be it. Because that Miami loss was bad. You didn't just lose. You got embarrassed. And there were the surrounding narratives that made it so much worse. Cristobal breaking the chomp over his knee. There were the recruits that were there that you had mentioned. The post-game interview where he lost the fight with the water bottle. For those of you who don't know, he couldn't get the cap off the water bottle during his interview. He didn't acknowledge it, but he couldn't do it. If you don't handle Samford, handle them. It could be then because this is the outcome of this Miami game now. Now, after that, you're going to have to turn around and host A&M, and after watching them on Saturday, they're better. They're improved.
Oh, yeah.
They went toe-to-toe with a really good Notre Dame team. Now, we picked them to win that game, and I don't want to traffic too much into that because we're going to talk about it. But Florida has got to get this stuff together. But shifting gears, we're going to close out this segment. Cam Ward. Are you buying stock on Cam Ward?
I'm buying stock, dude. Because it's not because that, it almost sounds like I'm putting stock back into Florida if I'm buying Cam. It's the environment. It's the miserable heat that both teams had to deal with. And it's what he did going 385-3 in his first live action with this team, man. This is not a team that he grew up, broke out, and became Cam Ward against, for lack of better words. Right. This is not where he earned his stripes. He earned them across the country on the other corner of it. Not only the other end, as far away as you can be is where he earned his name. And he made people know who he was. And look, it's clear that he likes Xavier Restrepo. I'm betting if I was Miami's quarterback, I would too. He's a stud. But 385-3 is strong. The pick was a little bit behind a guy coming across the field. We know that.
Oh, he threw across his body.
He did, and he did a lot of this stuff. He did a lot of these low arm slots, sidearm looking throws, and a lot of times landed a pretty accurate ball doing it.
Correct.
Man, he looks dang good. He looks like everything perhaps that he was built up to be, and that's just his first debut with this group of guys.
Absolutely. Cam Ward is special, and what's even more special is the fact that Miami went to Florida. I'm gonna say it again. Drained it, pissed in it to fill it back up, drained it again, got a win, 41-17. I'm sensing a theme on this next one. Brian Kelly is opening every season in LSU at a neutral site game, and he's losing them. Yeah. LSU loses this game to USC 27-20. I'm already going to shift this thing. We just opened it up, and I'm going to tell you this.
Okay.
Agree, disagree, let me know. USC is better than they have been under Caleb Williams.
USC is improved. Yeah, and look, you and I both yet another situation where we both kind of whiffed. It's not quite as bad as the Florida State whiff that we had, but we were calling for, it's going to be 50-40. Oh my God, points are going to be left and right. Mm-hmm. The yardage, the yardage was still left and right. Both teams,
yes,
over 420. That's dang strong. That's a lot of passing, by the way.
Right.
But yes, dude, USC is improved. Miller Moss is not going to. That's how you replace a Caleb Williams. Hey, this is like a coach having some continuity. What do you know? And in this case, he's always had good offenses. We know that his defense has been the issue. But yeah, Miller Moss looks great, man. They lost. Look, with the things they lost across the rest of the offensive side of the equation, they still look pretty strong. This is some really nice continuity. I know I keep saying that word, but a lot of programs don't seem to have any. Can't seem to figure it out. USC likes the portal of plenty, so it's obviously not just that for these other teams that can't figure it out. But absolutely, man, they look improved. They look like they're going to be a potential real contender in the new Big Ten.
I think it's one of those cases where they knew what they had with Caleb Williams, and maybe they laxed off of their coaching jobs and just I don't know if there's a subconscious thought where like, man, Caleb is going to do this, whatever. Don't get me wrong. I'm not necessarily a Caleb Williams fan by any means. Generational talent, special talent.
Oh yeah,
incredible talent. But you now have to get back to coaching the entire thing. And I think you got a really good one in this Miller Moss kid, who is a polar opposite personality to me. Like the dude looks like he's 18, 19, 20 years old. He's got a hint of 89 in him. I mean, he looks like an old man, right? 27 for 36, 378, and a score. He played really, really well. That 2-minute drive to close that game out was a work of art, and I'm actually going to credit him and Lincoln Riley for that. Lincoln Riley, one of the best in the games, were not showing you his entire hand, saving that for a fourth quarter said drives like we're talking about now. And then you got this Woody Marks kid who hadn't heard of until that night, 16 for 68.
Yeah.
Ran well, found the end zone twice. Zachariah Branch, real quick on him, 4 for 56. He's a generational talent as well. He was able to flip the field in the special teams game. Any other comments on Southern Cal as we get over to LSU and Kelly?
Yeah, not really, man. But wouldn't it, just thinking out loud and thinking in advance a little bit, it will be really wild if they've obviously got a long season to go. They've got a lot left to prove and do, but if they are the ones that come in from the pack and really leave a mark on either, maybe they make the conference championship game, I don't know what it looks like, but it would be really wild if it was them and could be anybody else. There's no divisions, but we didn't expect it. We thought they would struggle with the transition, but and maybe they still do. They're going to play some really weird games across the country and really stupid time slots. We know that, but surprising, but very admirable effort from the Trojans.
Listen, I've said 100 times already, and I'm sure that I've said it to you. You can't put stock in week one. Can't put stock in week one. Okay, I'm not taking away from what USC has done. I am more so speaking to Oregon's performance. And what I'm getting at is I don't think UCLA is going to be very good. Washington's obviously going to be down. Did Oregon show their hand? Michigan might be in for it. Okay, so we might have whiffed on the whole Big Ten thing as well. So I think you make a good point there on the overall outlook of the conference as a whole. But now we got to talk about Brian Kelly.
Yes, we do.
I remember
tables and
I remember saying
flipping birds and
I remember saying going into the preview episode, about his year 3, what he does in year 3, what he did in year 3 at Cincinnati, what he did in year 3 Notre Dame. This one looks different. Now, he's not out of it by any means, but he's got some clear trouble. And he alluded to it in his presser that you spoke about, where he slams his hand down on the table and he's frustrated with the body language, with the atmosphere, the energy of his team. Rightfully so. He also rightfully so took responsibility for it. You didn't see those things in 2012 with Notre Dame. You didn't see those things in 2009, I believe, Math, with Cincinnati.
Sounds correct.
You shouldn't see that, period, in a year 3 squad. You didn't see that year 3 with Butch Jones.
No. I mean, he's one of the few guys, and I say few because a lot of coaches, man, they don't go Napier or Mark Stoops or probably Brian Kelly and go get you a 15-yard penalty because they know how harmful it is. If they lose their cool, if that fuse flips and they lose it in the game, how damaging that is for your defense, most likely. Could be for your offense if you really hate a call. But signs of cracking, man, that's just – it's not good in week 1 to have such an outburst. Minor credit to him for taking, responsibility. He still called out his team pretty dang strong. And it seems like with him taking some of the credit, he knows that it's mainly – it's on him, and then it trickles down for how those things are changed and how they go from week to week.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such a bad look for an outburst, something – I mean, in some cases, maybe you want Napier or Dabo to have a reaction like that because it seems so lifeless, but this is not what you want in week 1 when the issues are well documented with how it's gone.
Not at all, man. They're going to have a few weeks to get it right before they have a serious challenge again. They're going to host Nicholls State. They should flex their muscles there. They're going to travel to Columbia, South Carolina. They should flex their muscles there. They're going to host UCLA. I look forward to that one. They should flex their muscles there. They're going to host South Alabama. They should flex again. They're going to host Ole Miss. They've got 4 solid opportunities to get it right, to create some optimism, to create some confidence, to right the ship. I don't like him, but I think if there's somebody who can do it, I think it's Brian Kelly.
You're probably right. This gap in tests in all that is, I think, a lot of the reason LSU had buzz going into this year. Like, contending for 10-11. I don't know. They're not going to win the conference this year. I've never thought that, but that was a nice start to the season. If you could beat the USC team that's had longer standing defensive problems than you had, and you didn't get it done, then you had an outburst. Go get things right, and obviously try to build from there. It's not all is not lost for LSU as it may be in Clemson, South Carolina, and in Tallahassee, depending on how they respond. But yeah, they've got to figure some things out. They've got to find some fire and really, really continue fixing some of the defensive woes over the stretch before you play a team that scored 76 points in week 1.
Maybe we need to stop looking at Brian Kelly's career as a whole and start looking at what he's done in LSU specifically, because that seems to be different than his other stops.
Yeah.
He's having these slow starts and he's building, and as the season goes, his squads are getting better. Maybe that's going to be the case. Lucky for him, he's got a solid month to do something about it before they host Ole Miss. Nonetheless, USC gets a win over the Bayou Bengals, 27-20. All right, well, that's going to bring our show to a close, recapping some week 1 highlights, games, results, whatnot. I want to end this whole thing by saying this. Hey, props to Marcus Freeman for going down into a tough environment, beating a improved Texas A&M team. Secondly, I would say I like Mac Elko. I like the way he handles the sideline. That's a totally different personality than Jimbo Fisher. Look for Texas A&M to continue to improve.
I agree, and it's not going to be with Weigman doing the things we've seen him do before, most likely, because there were some serious issues in his game. And previously, he's thrown it all over the yard. He's lit up some scoreboards in his time. and obviously they've got some things to iron out. I'm with you. I like both of these head coaches. I really hope in the future that Marcus Freeman's at a place where I can actually really get behind what he's got going on, and it's not Notre Dame, but man, I like that guy. And Elko is one of the closest things I think we have to just an old ball coach right now in today's game, man. Run the bleeping ball. Everybody probably saw that. I think he's going to be a really good one down there. It's not a surprise when you lose to a more established program, even though we were wrong, I think, in week 1. But, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with everything you said on this.
There you go. During the time of this recording, get a text from a close friend of mine who basically points out that you were wrong about Bama not covering. It was a 31.5. They double cover it. Hey, props to Bama, although we don't care. We hope you guys fall in mud. It is what it is. Also, we were really wrong. Both of us were really, really wrong about Florida State. We both picked A&M. We were wrong there. Being wrong is a part of the game. But when we get it right, we're going to rub it in your face. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Pandemonium Reigns. I'm Dan. He's Mike. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on this video. We are so close to 100 subscribers on YouTube. You might laugh at us, but only 100. Shut up. Click the button. Make us one of your people. It would go a long, long way for us. This is year 3 of the show. We enjoy doing this. We enjoy hanging out with you. With that said, wow, I'm stuttering. That's great podcasting. This is going to be the end of this episode talking about week 1. We love you guys. God bless. Go Vols.
GBO.